Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. Of course, our panel, and I'm calling them great Kenyans, help us to continue to analyze the state of the country, the state of society. And today we are asking you, do you know someone in your community who's doing something inspirational? Can you share their story? You know, when you open the front page of the Daily Nation or the Standard, all you see is doom and gloom. But today, as we prepare for the long weekend, we want to hear some inspirational stories. 2242 is our SMS line.
You can call in 0719 777 0742 961 343. The hashtag we're using is Daybreak. At Trevor Mbija, Twaiga Maura, Zinzi K, and Twaiga said we have to mention that Willie Siraburu as well.
He's preparing breakfast.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Need to keep that. So in all the challenges, the turmoil, drought, corruption, whatever it is, there is some glimmer of hope. There are some Kenyans really being excellent in what they are doing, and we want to honor them today. And some of them are here with us today. Nice Nailante Lengete is here with us today. We have Muthiora Kariara. We have Major retired Wairimu Mukuri, and of course we also have Douglas Mwangi, and we will keep sharing their stories. And now is the time to learn a little bit about them. Nice, let me start with you. When I checked out your bio, I saw hashtag End FGM Activist.
Yes.
And you've gotten quite some awards. Talk to me a little bit about how you got to this particular stage, and of course your upbringing, and it led you to really pick up this particular campaign. How would you explain it in as few words as possible to Kenyans?
My journey started when I was 8 years old, because remember, circumcision in my community, that is the Maasai community, is done as a rite of passage from girlhood to womanhood. So mostly it's done to girls from the age of 8 to 14. And when I was 8, it was my time, together with my 3 cousins and my sister. But because I've seen girls dropping out of school when I was in school, I couldn't even see girls from my community in my classroom. And that's when I started realizing I don't think this is something that I'm supposed to do. Because once I've undergone the cut, it means that I'm not able to come back to school. So a few people helped me throughout my journey. That is my sister. She had to sacrifice herself to undergo circumcision so that I be left out.
Really?
Yes. And
okay.
Later on, my grandfather, being an elder, and elders in my community are decision makers, they are respected. But later on, after running away from my home 3 times and staying in school and coming back.
After you ran away from your home 3 times?
Yeah, he decided to support me. And growing up in that community has not been easy, because remember, you are an uncircumcised girl, so there is neglection, many challenges and all that. But I never gave up. I decided later on, after going to school, I need to go back to my community and not choose to do any other work. Because remember, issues of female genital mutilation is a very sensitive cultural issue. And that means you can't choose a day to change people. It's about changing mindset. It's about changing behavior.
Which takes time.
It takes a lot of time. But I started a few campaigns talking to cultural leaders, because I knew they are very influential. I started talking to men, because why girls are married is because there are men who are waiting to marry them. And if they don't understand the effects of female genital mutilation, it means they will continue demanding. And girls, will say, we don't have people to marry us, so we have to continue with the practice. But more, it's about empowering girls and women, girls to stand up for their own rights. And that's how we've been able, together with the support of AMREF, to start an alternative rites of passage that ensures that we can retain the beautiful part of our culture. Because my beads, our beautiful dresses, the way we sing and dance and jump, we are known very well for that.
Yes.
That's a good culture. It teaches us generosity, love, how to stay with one another. And that's a culture that we want to continue.
That you want to continue?
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you. So many awards here. Time 100 Most Influential People. Women Deliver Young Leader. 2016 Mandela Washington Fellowship recipient. Where did all these people find you? How did they get to hear about your story?
It all started from my from my own village, because I started making change there. I started working there. But also when I started working with AMREF, now I'm not only working in my village, but I'm going to different villages. And remember, issues of female genital mutilation now, it's not a Kenyan issue, it's not an African issue. This is a global issue. Girls, and we all know more than 200 million girls globally have already undergone the cut. Another 3 million girls every year in Africa are still at risk of undergoing female genital mutilation. So that means all the like-minded organizations, all the activists, people who are working on the same cause, we really need to come up together and find a global solution. But really, it's not to go and sit somewhere together and decide this is what works for the Maasai or for the Kuria community, because we all have different reasons on why we are doing female circumcision. And that means one solution cannot fit in all the tribes. But I believe by empowering these community members, people like me and others who are doing amazing jobs, I think change can happen, because it has to start from the from within, not from the inside out.
Nice. You're summarizing a very inspirational story in a very brief time, but many people are wondering, how do you deal with the stigma, number one, and also number two, you mentioned alternative rites of passage.
Yes.
How are those being accepted in the village? Because there's some people may want to stand up for what is right, but the backlash from the community is something they cannot withstand. How did you deal with that, and how are the people accepting the alternative rites of passage that you're now putting forth?
You see, when I talk of alternative rites of passage, this is not a movement that I started alone. My work has been raising awareness to these community members, saying it is wrong because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. And remember, I think there are 2 key things that I learned when I was working in my community. One of them is patience, because you need time to change. The other thing is to talk less and give them time to talk more, because they understand more. It's a culture that has been there for hundreds of years. And what we are simply saying in the alternative rites of passage, remember, this is a community-led movement. It's not a movement that I started. It's the community that has said we love our culture, but there are good things that we can do in our culture. And one thing we are simply saying, we are replacing the cat with education, because remember, investment in education is very key in trying to address any kind of or any form of gender-based violence. So they receive a training on sexual and reproductive health and rights issues, including effects of female genital mutilation and child marriage. We also have a constitution, the 2011 Prohibition Act against female genital mutilation, which is key. But then again, using force to fight attitude is not easy, because it's about changing mindset. And this is a process that takes years. You don't go and talk to people today and then you expect them to change tomorrow. We have places whereby we've been working with people, talking to them each and every day for 5 years, and they have not even accepted to do the alternative rites of passage. And by doing that, with the support of men and women and girls from our community, we've been able to save over 17,000 girls who are now women without the card, but morely they're in school, because again, it's our work to ensure there's transition and completion of these girls in schools. But it's about empowering both. I'm not really saying we are only empowering the girl child, we are leaving the boy child, because remember, if the girl child is too empowered, who takes care of her if the boy child is not empowered? So it's about doing a balance and ensuring both are taken care of.
Okay, Muthiora, let me bring you. Wow. You want to react?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love how she concluded her narrative.
Yeah.
That if you bring up the girl and not bring up the boy child, who will take care of the girl child? And that's something we need to focus on, which is something.
That is if the girl child needs taken care of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me just
That is if the girl child needs taken care of.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, I've been working with young people as well. My research has told me that in Kenya, the problem really is not in the hardware. We've been building infrastructure since independence, roads, bridges, all these hardware that's needed for a nation to move forward. But then we've not focused on the software. That's why we bring up men. They have big bodies and we think they should be behaving like adults, but then sometimes they fall short.
What's in them isn't quite.
Yes, that's because the soft skills they need to be holistic human beings are missing. Like I had mentioned earlier, a lot of us do not realize that we are the change that we would like to see. We've been complaining about the cost of living. There is a time when the new levy on fuel was introduced and everyone was crying foul.
Uproar, complete.
Yes, and I took it upon myself to go find out why other nations, including Uganda, whose fuel is transported through Kenya, sells their fuel more cheaply. And I cycled all the way to Ethiopia, where their fuel at that particular time cost about 70% of our price.
You cycled from Nairobi to Ethiopia?
Yes.
When was this?
This was in August last year, I believe.
Okay.
And after that, I went to Uganda.
Still on the same bicycle?
Yes.
Okay.
And basically, I've been trying to understand Kenyans, ranging from kids all the way to the older generation, because I don't want to just pass through I want to make an impact, and I want to use that which God has given me. And I'm glad God gave me talents. I'm a sports person. So when I cycle and in the evening I find people playing soccer, we can sit after the game and talk about life. So I'm glad that I'm not alone in this journey, because like you've heard her story, she's not afraid that this will die down because she has a community behind her. And I appreciate the fact that men are not, they are no longer fighting that the girl child is being supported more than the boy child. We know it's for the good of the society.
Okay.
In my community right now,
Hold that thought one moment. We have Joshua from Kirinyaga who's just calling in. Joshua, good morning.
Morning, Trevor.
Yes, go ahead with your comment, Joshua. Who do you nominate as the most inspirational person from where you are in Kirinyaga?
I think I'll take a different route, Trevor.
Okay.
Mine will be about, I will do it posthumously.
Okay.
Because it continues to impact on life today. In 1959,
Yeah.
a selfless man with no means but with a vision and a dream and hope for humanity started Starehe Boys Center. And he, for the last 50 or so years, he has managed to change the landscape and the life of this country by ensuring that over 30,000 boys get quality education, and they become they become productive members of the society. So today I wish to recognize the late Dr. Geoffrey Griffiths, the former director of Starehe Boys Center, and how I wish most of us can emulate him, live a selfless life, giving back, even when you don't expect so much in return. And finally, Trevor, allow me very briefly to comment on the housing levy. I've done my calculation this morning, and if you earn a salary of 30,000 and you pay a levy deduction of 1.5% of your salary, you'll be paying 450 shillings per month, which is 5,400 per year. It means that you will need to work for 20 years to raise 108,000. I don't think there is a modern house today that will cost you 100,000. So I think the whole project by the government on housing is a rip-off, it's a scam, it's a con game, and I think Kenyans should reject it completely.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joshua. Joshua from Kirinyaga, they must be a Starehe Boys alumni.
I think so, yeah.
But he says Dr. Griffin is the person that he sends his shout-outs to for being a selfless man and
Changing
having
their lives.
educated over 30,000.
Over 30,000 boys, that's right.
All right.
Changing their lives.
So we're taking a quick break now?
Not yet. In a couple of minutes, Trevor, unless you see the need for one. We'll come back to you and continue getting your thoughts on this. But Major, let's now bring you in and just understand your story and your passion for helping veterans. Some would ask why.
Well, because there is no help for military veterans, because I am one, because I have been moved into obligation by the cost of not caring, what the cost is of not caring for military veterans, and I have all the resources, both internal and external, to be able to do it.
Okay.
And I have a very deep conviction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Major, I saw at some point you were speaking to a military man who was on the streets.
Yes.
Where was that and how did you find him and what happened?
Wow. So I didn't look for him. I was actually just minding my own business, and I saw this guy, and he was the way you saw him. And
just describe what it was, because most of our panelists don't understand. I mean, I saw it on YouTube, but most of them.
So there was this guy, and he had these stone boots, and he had this trouser that was cut from the knees. One was long, one was short, and he had like a dirty jumper on, and he had the hood on, and he had a piece of corrugated metal that had cement that was attached to it, and he had a big gunia that he was carrying, and he was just walking on the street.
So he was a street urchin, basically.
A street man.
Street man.
Street man.
Street man, yeah. So I've worked a lot in those kind of spaces. So for me, I never look away. I don't shy away. I just look at them in the eye. And so I look at him in the eye, and I'm like, I know these eyes. And those eyes look back at me, and I realize he knows who I am, and we recognize each other. And then he calls me madam. I think those words forever will ring in my head, because when he called me that, immediately I felt shame and guilt, because a person looking like that is calling me madam. I'm like, really? I don't think I deserve to be called that if he looks like that. And I think that's when I made that choice to record that incident and share it, because I was angry but hopeful at the same time. And there has been a lot of delusions about what happens to soldiers when they leave the military, what happens to soldiers when they go home. And he was a good example of a lot of what is happening. So they are on the street, they are in jail, they're in Mathare, they have been neglected by their families, they are now the people in the village who are causing havoc, they are drunkards, they are, I mean, the communities from where they come from will tell you. The families from where they come from will tell you. But there is a big ceiling where that voice cannot actually pass through because of just a collective set of delusion that exists around military veterans.
In your own assessment, is the government playing its role? Because these are people who've been protecting Kenyans. These are people who we owe our lives to, so to speak.
Yes, you do.
And then nobody takes care of the veterans when they leave?
I know it sounds ridiculous when you put it like that. And the truth is, it is ridiculous.
So nobody's taking care of the veterans as we speak right now?
I mean, nobody from government is.
How much support are you getting as an individual?
I mean, I get support from the people who believe in the cause. You even have veterans themselves who don't believe that they deserve any kind of compassion. So it's a very...
thankless job.
Yes, yes, it is, but it should not be, because the cost is too extreme.
So they don't think they deserve compassion because of the experiences they've gone through, or because of what they're currently going through right now, or because of the way the structure is? You're a military man, so you need to be strong.
Yes, yeah, but also remember the experiences denigrate people at an internal level, where their personal self-worth and esteem is shattered. And anybody who is like that does not believe they deserve anything. Like, I remember when we were parting with him, and I was like, you know, you have to tell me what you need. You have to tell me what you want. And he said, I don't need anything. So from my end, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You need everything. But of course, I can't tell him that. I have to respect what he's saying. He's also not in the best state of mind. So I really need to just be very compassionate as to how I treat him. And I gave him food that I had bought for my daughter, and he refused it. He said, if you bought the food, it's because you needed it. I said, but I think you need more. Still in
service even when he's
exactly. And this nature of, this is the nature of the veterans we have in this country. Yeah. This is their nature. They are constantly giving. They are constantly putting themselves out there. So I think to be able to support them, to be able to surround them with, you know, whatever they need, be it treatment, be it reintegration, be it a translation of their roles, to be able to gather themselves to do jobs that can support their recovery and support their families and support themselves, that's what we should be doing.
I have so many questions about veterans, but isn't it even risky for a veteran person, a military guy with all the training, to be on the streets?
Absolutely, because when you actually think about it, these are people who get into the military just after high school, so they don't have any other kind of training. So when they leave, honestly, the biggest skill they have is to be riflemen. Yeah. Yeah.
And combat.
And I'll tell you, one of the things that I have had to deal with is talking down family members and talking down they themselves who are like, maybe if I just help these people with this one job, I can be able to secure the safety of my family. And I'm like, but this is not what you actually signed up for. You know, you need to think through it. This is not what your skills were trained for. And we live in the era of, you know, Al-Shabaab, homegrown terrorism. Yes. We have to take care of our veterans if we are aware of what the bigger picture is.
That they could be sucked into this other side. Who would have thought that veterans would be a vulnerable group? Very interesting thoughts there, Major. We'll come back to Karen with that discussion. Douglas, let me now bring you in. You got the chance to meet the Queen herself.
Sure.
What led you to the doorstep or the door of Buckingham Palace?
Thanks. First of all, let me say I'm really, really inspired by their stories, and these guys are phenomenal. And instead of complaining what's happening around them, you know, at least they're doing something. So yeah, back to your question. Yes, I'm a founder of an organization that seeks to eradicate poverty and literacy through improving the quality of education and skills training in Dar es Salaam. And we've been doing that since 2013, and that's what gave me an opportunity to go and receive an award from Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace. And that was Madara. You know, I was born and brought up in Dar es Salaam, and things were not going. You know, there were so many gaps. You know, so many bad vibes going around. No opportunities. There are days that time I spent a whole time at home as a result because I didn't have a textbook, and that was approximately 150 shillings. So, you know,
150 shillings kept you at home for a whole time.
Yeah, for 3 good months. So you can imagine that kind of stuff, you know. And then after finishing primary school, I didn't manage to go to high school. If my mother couldn't afford a textbook, then you can imagine school fees and everything. So yeah, then after that, I started engaging myself with other young men and women who are not doing the tags and everything. But that led me to getting learning some skill. I was 14 years old, learning some skills, and then I got employed to one of a local barber shop. I worked there for 2 years, raised a bit of some of my school fees, went back to high school. But again, there were still challenges. You know, we lived in a really tiny shack. You know, there was the electricity. You know, it's very noisy. You can't do studies at home. There are no space where you go and do studies and. So that's what led me to then start Oasis. To start Oasis Madare, you know, at least give these young men and women an opportunity to come and give them a safe space so they can learn.
If I come to Oasis today, what will I find young people doing?
You'll find them engaging. You'll find kids actually playing. You know, because our model is totally different. Because again, in Dar es Salaam, there are no spaces where kids can play. They're really, some of the spaces which are left behind it's a huge pile of garbage and everything. So we have a space where kids can come and just mess around, come and play. And as a result of that, you know, and again, kids they need a space where they can play. It's you know, so as they're playing, you know, they get encouraged to read at an early age because they can see their elder peers doing that. They can see some the elder peers again using technology. You know, that we sparked at an early age, and then we have youth program. Those who and again. If the majority of young men and women in Dar es Salaam, they did not finish formal education. They did not have any kind of skill that will help them get employed. So we help them gain social entrepreneurship skills and digital literacy, at least so that they can fend for themselves. So in a nutshell, that's what we do at Oasis.
That's what you do at Oasis. Briefly, how did this experience transform your thinking? How different is the Douglas Mwangi before all this and after?
Let me take you back. We started Oasis Madare, and then it led to we had a really massive big space, but that space was taken away, and then the space that we have at the moment we were given by the community. The community donated to us, so they were like, whatever you're doing.
So they believed in your cause.
Yeah, they believed in what I was doing, and kids were really improving their literacy, and I was like, wow, it's really, I felt like no, I shouldn't stop this, and that really gave me a nudge to move forward and to give, yesterday I was with my family friend and no, actually he's a family, and he was telling me that I thought you were going nuts, you and the Oasis thing.
Oh, you thought you were crazy, yeah? So when you're doing something great, I think that's a good lesson. Yes. When you're doing something great, people might think you're mad.
Yes. Anytime you trajectory.
No. Okay, and so how did you keep going despite just thinking that you're normal? Being
in that space and seeing kids really happy and there's a certain kind of feeling that you get and satisfaction if you help someone. We have had young men and women who have get employed as a result of coming and engaging at Oasis Madare and through the skill that they've learned at Oasis Madare. So that is what has kept me going.
All right.
Yeah.
brilliant people in the service of others.
In the service of others. I want to understand a few more things about these people when we come back, but I know we need to take a break.
Yep, we need to take a quick break, but let's see your feedback, 22422. Let's bring up some of them on your screen right now, and also tweeting us. The hashtag you're using is Daybreak at Trevor Mbija, at Zinzi K, at Waiga Moura, at Willis Raburu.
Don't forget.
We have to add. Let's bring up the tweets right now and go through them before we take a quick break.
Okay, Humphrey O says, I know of a young lady who is so inspirational. She fights for young girls' rights in her community, Teso. She's called Abukayo Murunga Osia. She's a young and brave lady.
Abukayo, shout out to you from Humphrey. And we still have more coming into our studio. Abdia says, today I celebrate Nice Nailante for the great advocacy campaigns she's doing in our community and championing for the rights of girls in the Maasai community. We are behind you as young people of this great nation to ensure rights of girls are upheld.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay,
awesome.
Let's look at some SMSs now. This first one coming in from Stephen Ochola. I would like to congratulate Edward Ochenge, who has contributed immensely to the development of our county, Migori. He has built schools, organized fundraising for vulnerable learners. He deserves a pat on the back. Edward, you've been shouted out there, so to speak, by Stephen Ochola.
Shouted out at.
Big shouted out at, okay.
Karanja Ruiru says, Bridget Gatwiri. She's a determined lady who works not for money, but to see smiles on children suffering from cerebral palsy. She's at the Jawa, just as we are.
Just as we are.
Meru. I just appreciate her good work. Bridget Gatwiri, fantastic job. Keep going.
Okay, we have one more. You don't give us your name, but you say Ben Solit is very inspiring in our village. He has been able to unite the entire village through WhatsApp. He makes sure that no member of the village suffers silently. He makes sure he alerts the entire village through the WhatsApp group and organizes an online fundraiser or looks for a volunteer to assist a villager. He uses his bicycle to move around. He's not employed, but does this voluntarily. Yeah. This is your story.
Ben
kind
Solit.
of story, yeah. Ben, send us
kindly text again. Tell us
details.
Who you are and where you're texting from. We'd like to try and find Ben Solit to see. Yeah.
You should see your Huduma number. Okay, that's very
You're absolutely right. People are doing great things out there.
Yes.
Despite the grim headlines that we see,
that's
it's not all about the politicians. People are taking matters into their own hands.
Yes.
Creating a difference where they are.
Not waiting for Serikali, MP, MCA, whoever come and help. That's a person on a bike doing this thing voluntarily.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Ensuring everyone is accounted for.
Yes.
The issues are addressed. We're taking a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, we'll find out from them what are the challenges they've been facing and what was the picture of success. So I know for Muthiora, one of the challenges, he found himself by himself. Yeah. Like the Nigerians say, in a protest field.
Oh, in a protest field, yes, and as an independent candidate, there must have been. Only in Kenya do you campaign alone. We take a quick break. We'll be right back.